What's up, everybody? It's HBT with the Straight Up Wrestling Show, man. I'm here live. Hey, here to do the thing, man. Here to do my thing. Talk about 1992. Talk about these wrestling superstars, man. Talk about wrestling superstars from 1992. How they rank the top 10. And that's all I'm going to get into right now is the top 10 of Wrestling Superstars magazine from 1992, guys. So definitely that's what I'm going to do. But hey, that you're joining the Straight Up Wrestling Show, man. Hey, and if you're coming in, you know what to do. Hit that like button, whatever platform you're on. Definitely hit that like button, man. Hey, how have your day been? Hey, so far right now, it's been a very tiring day for me, man. I'm trying to get things straightened out with my job and all that about, paychecks and all kinds of things like that. It's just been some crazy things going on. But guys, hey, glad that I'm with you. And man, we're gonna rock this thing out, and we're gonna talk about wrestling superstars from 1992. Man, there in the thumbnail, you probably saw the top 7. I couldn't get the other 3 in, but you saw the top 7 of that. So I definitely want to talk about that. Get into some of these old issues and talk about things that I grew up with, as a young adult when I was watching wrestling. Used to love the magazines and their top 10, who they thought was the top 10. The thing about these magazines, a lot of them, they was very accurate. They was very accurate about what they was doing. I used to like it because they was very keen to who had the most skill in wrestling and who was actually the best, the most talented guys in wrestling, not just the fan favorites. Back then, the guys who got ranked in these magazines, and the magazines were very important to these wrestlers because the magazines definitely put these wrestlers out here and showcase them. What's up? What's up, WWE 26? How you doing? Glad to see you. Definitely glad to see you. But definitely the magazines definitely was a big win for the wrestling community. They were our internet, as you would say today. They were our internet. And I actually think it was better than the internet because you couldn't go anywhere without seeing them. I mean, they was in every convenience store. You saw them in, grocery stores, pretty much like a Walmart or anything like that. And usually they was right in front of your face as you went up until going to the registers or anything like that. And you saw these wrestlers. I mean, you might not even know who that wrestler was. You would see a Bruno Sammartino on the cover. You would see a Mil Mascaras, a Dusty Rhodes on the corner. You would see Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan. So you would see these guys on the cover of these magazines, and they could be wrestling somewhere in another part of the country, in a territory that you don't know anything about. So that was the good thing about the wrestling magazines, because it exposed you to wrestlers that you never had heard of. Because the first time I saw Roddy Piper was in 1979. He came to the Mid-Atlantic Championship area, but I knew who he was because the wrestling magazines had captured him when he was over in, out in Phoenix wrestling and things, and, out in Portland wrestling, up there doing his thing there. So right before he came to the Mid-Atlantic, I knew who he was. So that way we knew who a lot of wrestlers was when they came to us, and we had read it. And if you took the time, you had read up on them, and you had knew who they was defeating and everything like that. So you had a good a good hold of who those guys were. All right, WWE 26 said I'm good, and you doing pretty good, WWE 26. Man, need a little bit more rest, man. But hey, I'm doing pretty good right now. I'm just pretty much trying to get loaded up. I had a lot of things, business things to take care of today. But with all that, I think I'm pretty good, man. And I definitely got to get out here and cut some grass a little bit later on the day. But let's go ahead and get into this wrestling superstars top 20. No, we're gonna get into the top 10. J.L. Harrington, how's it going? Pretty good, J.L. Pretty good, man. Trying to get a little energy and everything, man. Knock this podcast out. Go and cut some grass over at my daughter's house. Then come back and maybe catch Raw a little bit later on. And Christopher Burton is at work, so Christopher Burton will not be on for Raw tonight. Most likely, I will be on for Raw. If not, man, like I say, we're going to be coming back. We're going to be doing reviews. And I think Chris and I, we're going to go to a lot more reviews instead of going live every single show. we're going to go and do a lot more reviews than, always doing the live shows, and probably step back a little bit with the live shows. I like the format of when we used to do the reviews, and the reviews that we used to do, a lot of times they were just audio. I like the audio. I'll go back and I listen to some of our audios, and a lot of people used to like the audio. I definitely think I'm gonna do that because it gives you guys a chance, just in case you out on the town, you out running errands or whatever, or you going to work or something like that, and you can just pick up one of our audios and you can hear the audio instead of Chris and I, being on live. And and usually when somebody's on live, you want to take a look and see, you want to look at them, you want to engage with them. But when it's audio, then you will pick it up, you would listen to it wherever you go. So definitely we're going to get back more into audios, doing a lot of audio stuff. Says custom grass, thick accent. Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely got a thick accent. So some southern accent there. But definitely got to get out here and cut some grass, my brother. All right, man. Wrestling Superstars. This right here was from these ratings was compiled February 21st, 1962. Right now, I'm just going to get into the top 10 and tell you what I think about these wrestlers and where they was at in their careers at this time, and what they meant to the landscape of professional wrestling, and was they legit top 10 wrestlers at this time in professional wrestling. Now 1992, WWE and WCW pretty much had bought up all the territories. You really didn't have many territories left, but you had a few that were still out here hanging around. So I'm definitely going to go and talk about these, talk about this, and you will hear something that you probably never heard before as far as the territory where these wrestlers came from. But I will get into how good these wrestlers were and were they top 10 worthy. So let's go ahead and get into that number 10, man. The top 10. Okay, number 10 was Eddie Gilbert. Eddie Gilbert, he was the global TV champion. Now, Eddie Gilbert, great wrestler, used to run around with Sting. He had a faction at one time with Sting, Rick Steiner, and I think Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor was in that group. Very good group that they had out of the UWF. Those guys was fantastic, man. And Eddie Gilbert was a great wrestler. Rest in peace to Eddie Gilbert, but he was a great wrestler, man. Not a very big wrestler, but a very, very good wrestler. I can say he was basically like an Arn Anderson type wrestler. If you know about Arn Anderson's career, go back and look at some of the tapes that Arn Anderson did. That Arn Anderson has. Eddie Gilbert reminds me a lot of Arn Anderson. Not as rugged as Arn Anderson, but very good and very smart, just like Arn Anderson. But Eddie Gilbert was a very, very talented wrestler and definitely deserved to be at number 10. And he brought he was a global TV champion. He brought credibility to that championship. And global at that time in 1992, they was being shown on ESPN, which was a very good get for global championship wrestling, but global was not able to capitalize on that, and that's a sad thing, but because they had some great wrestlers over there. But yeah, Eddie Gilbert was the TV champion, and I think at that time, this is off a different, just the same subject, but not talking about the top 10. Harlem Heat was the tag team champs over there at the time. Booker T and his brother Stevie Ray, but they was called something else. Can't exactly remember what it was called, but they were the champs. They was global tag team champs as far as I remember at that time. Just want to make sure before I go on that that is what I'm talking about, so I don't get thrown off. All right, man. Number 9 was the number 1 contender for the U.S. title. He was Ricky Steamboat, man. Rick Steamboat was the number 1 contender for the U.S. title. Of course, over in WCW, they used to call him Ricky the Dragon Steamboat after he had came back from, being in WWE that one time, and he had came back. They would call him Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on TV, but everybody basically went back to Rick Steamboat because that's what he was known as, Rick Steamboat or Ricky Steamboat in the WCW, the old NWA, Mid-Atlantic Jim Crockett days. He was known as just Rick Steamboat. He was the number 1 contender for the U.S. Championship. very, very good wrestler. And as I go through this, guys, I go up to number 1, then I'm gonna come back down because I should have went from 1 to 10, but I decided to go from 10 to 1. But Rick Steamboat, man, incredible wrestler, and hey, he has an argument as to be basically the greatest wrestler ever. He definitely in that argument, man. He didn't have the world championships needed for that. In my opinion, he's the greatest tag team wrestler ever. And it doesn't matter. I mean, he had several different partners that he had world tag team titles reigns with. But to me, he's the greatest world tag team wrestler that ever put on the tights. And man, I can say, wow, man, this shirt kind of weird. But he has a big shirt. But man, only person I can really say I could really put on his level as far as tag team supremacy, who won the title a lot with other different wrestlers, that's Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson won it a lot with a lot of different other wrestlers. So I have to put Arn Anderson right there with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as far as tag team supremacy. I guess you can go and look at some old veterans who won it with a lot of different tag teams too. That's Pat Patterson with a lot of different partners, and Ray Stevens, Ray the Crippler Stevens. But Ricky Steamboat, man, great wrestler. And like I said, he has an argument to be as the best ever, in my opinion. And not just mine. I mean, you look at people like Ric Flair, and a lot of Dutch Mantel. A lot of people will tell you Ricky Steamboat is the greatest wrestler ever. All right, man. But yeah, he was number 9 at this time. Very good. Not as strong as he was back in the 70s and 80s. Used to be a muscular guy, very strong guy. Used to compete in bodybuilding championships, and that helped him a lot in wrestling, in my opinion. He could just overpower his opponents and pretty much take them down. At this time, he was using a lot of finesse, a lot of his moves, pretty much to take care of his business. Next, man, we had Kamala. Kamala, the Ugandan giant. He was the USWA champion and the USWA champion. That's out in Texas, United States Wrestling Association. He was their champion, a great champion. I think that was world class. Had went into the USWA, became the USWA or something like that. But Kamala was a great champion, man, and definitely deserving of it, and definitely deserving of the top 10 at that time. He was very recognizable, and he was being shown, he was being shown syndication around the United States a lot as a champion, even though WCW, it was basically WWE and WCW pretty much taking over the airwaves, and Global had a very huge imprint with ESPN. They just didn't know how to take advantage of it. But I think Kamala, I remember USWA used to combine shows sometime with Global, so he was over on ESPN sometime too. All right, my man. Yeah, Kamala was ranked in the top 10, JL. Definitely, man. He was great. All right. JL said, I'm sorry, Kamala ranked top 10. Yes, he was. JL, Booker T. Yeah, Booker T. Like I said, Booker T and his brother, Stevie Ray. I forgot what they was called, but they was a tag team back in Global Championship Wrestling, and that's where they pretty much got their start, got popular at in Global Championship Wrestling. But he wasn't in the top 10 because he wasn't a singles competitor yet. All right. Man, number 7 was the Dark Patriot. The Dark Patriot was the global North American champion at that time. And, that's where they get that North American championship at. I remember it from a global championship wrestling, and it pretty much looked closely the same. But he was the North American championship. But basically, it did start in it started in the Mid-Atlantic Championship area. In NWA, NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, the North American Championship actually started there, and they disbanded the title, and Global ended up carrying it. But the global North American champion was the Dark Patriot. I know a lot of you guys never heard of the Dark Patriot, but that was Eddie Gilbert, who's ranked number 10. That was Eddie Gilbert's brother. His name, the Dark Patriot, I think his real name is Tommy Gilbert, or is it Doug? No, Doug Gilbert. Tommy is the dad of the Gilbert clan. Doug Gilbert was the Dark Patriot, and he carried the North American championship. He was a pretty good wrestler, not as good as Eddie, but very, very talented, and he's still going, man, on the indie scene. He's like 54 years old. All right, next, man, at number 6, we had Lex Luger, who was the WCW World Champion, guys. He was ranked number 6. Now, this is the lowest I ever saw a WCW World Champion at that time. Because the WCW World Champion before that, I mean, it usually was held by Ric Flair, then Sting. You had Barry Windham and Lex Luger. Those are the only ones who had it. But the WCW World Champion, when Ric Flair and Sting had it, always was in the top three. Ric Flair always was the number one wrestler. He was always ranked ahead of the WWE champion, WWF champion. He was always ranked ahead of them and the AWA champion. But Ric Flair was always on top, usually. Now, sometimes he would fall at number two. It really depends if, like, Ultimate Warrior or Hulk Hogan had a hot streak, or Randy Savage had a hot streak at that time, that they will overtake Ric Flair in the top 10 in these wrestling magazines, So, man, but Lex Luger was ranked number 6, which was very shocking. It was shocking. It was shocking to me when I saw this, and it wasn't when it boiled down to it. Because I thought Lex Luger was a weak champ, man. I thought he was a weak champ. And even back then, I don't care how muscular he was or what, and he had a lot of experience at this time, learned from a lot of different wrestlers. I thought he was a weak champ and shouldn't have been a champ over in WCW, but he was the world champ. He was number 6, and this is who they wanted to push. And they gave him the title. The Pizza Man, I forgot his name. What was the Pizza Man who came in and pretty much pushed Ric Flair out of the company? He didn't want Flair. He wanted to push Lex Luger. So Lex Luger had that WCW World Championship. At this time, he was ranked number 1. And for the WWE, if he was a WWE World Champ, I think he would have looked really good as WWE World Champ. And he would have been the number 1 wrestler. I would have had no problem with that. Him being propelled number 1 with WWE, because he definitely fit their profile better than he did WCW's guys. All right. So Lex Luger was number 6. Number 5 was Randy Savage, man. Randy Savage is number 5. He was the number 2 contender to the WWF title. Randy Savage was number 5, guys. Okay, but yeah, number 2 contender, always a great wrestler. At that time, WWF was kind of like playing with him a little bit, man. Wasn't having him as in many matches as he should have been, and he was having him doing a lot of commentary. But he was the number 2 contender to the WWF world title. All right, JL says Kamala being ranked this high is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Yes, man, he finally got his due and was able to get a championship. So hey, big ups to Kamala, man. Big ups to Kamala, guys. But yeah, it is mind-boggling though, Jay Hill. But he never had risen that high before. All right, next, man, we had Roddy Piper, who was ranked number 4. He was a WWF Intercontinental Champion. Roddy Piper was the Intercontinental Champion. Ranked number 4. Definitely, man, deserving of that title. Roddy Piper was something else, man, something special. We all know what he is. So Roddy Piper was number 4 at that time, man. And Roddy Piper did his thing, man. He should have been a world champ over at in WWE, to tell you the truth. But Roddy Piper, he just took control and was just at that time he was a hurricane, just dominating everybody over in the WWE. Now, was he his best time in wrestling? The greatest I've ever seen Roddy Piper? No, nowhere near. His between like 81 and 83 in Crockett Promotions, that's the best I ever seen Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper was devastating. All right, number 1 contender for the U.S. title was Sting, and that's when Sting and Lex Luger was battling it out. Old friends, they was going at it, and Sting didn't even care about the World Heavyweight Championship at that time. All Sting wanted was, Sting. Well, Sting, yeah, he was going for that world champion, and that was Lex Luger. But those two was battling it out at that time. But Sting, even though Sting didn't have a championship, Sting was the number 1 contender to the United States championship, and he was ranked number 3 in the world at that time, man. Unbelievable. Great. That was great. All right, the U.S. champion, the WCW U.S. champion was number 2 at this time, and that was Rick Rude, guys. Rick Rude was the number 2 champion at that time in the world. Number 2 wrestler in the world was Rick Rude. Unbelievable, man. But Rick Rude was great. He was great at the time, putting in a lot of work. And, hey, he ended up being the world champ. But Rick Rude was outstanding that year in 92. All right, number one was the WWF World Champion. That was Ric Flair, and like I said, I got to give it to Vince McMahon. Ric Flair was a shell of himself. He wasn't as great as he was when he was in WCW, but he still was great. He was the number one champion in the world out there in the WWF, man. So big ups to Ric Flair. Ric Flair in February of '92 was doing his thing, man. He definitely was doing his thing. He was the number one wrestler in the world at that time. All right, guys. Give me just a moment, man. Give me a moment. I'll be right back with you. All right, guys, I'm still here. So just give me a moment here. Hook up a power source. But I am still here. But yeah, so we went through the top 10. And like I said, Nature Boy Ric Flair was number one at that time, 1992. You had Rick Rude, number two. Rick Rude came in at number two. He was the WCW United States champion. Lex Luger was the champ, guys. Lex Luger was the world champ. But we had, at that time, man, we had, who did we have now? Okay, like I said, okay, Rick Rude was the WCW world US champ. He was number two. Sting didn't even have a title. He was ranked number 3 in the world at the time. Very popular and going after the world champion, who was Lex Luger, former friend at that time. And those guys, man, had some knockdown, drag out wars. It pretty much incredible when it boils down to it. Good matches. Really didn't go over with people as much as they thought they would, but they was pretty good matches for what it was. The whole thing is like Ric Flair could make Lex Luger have a good match, but Sting, I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure, but I thought they were C+ matches. I thought they was pretty good, but not as good as they could have been. And I think that's what everybody was looking at. I definitely think that's what everybody was looking at. All right, guys, let me see if I can get on. I want to get on here and see what's going on, because I want to be able to see myself as I'm doing this. All right. Okay, man, let's go on back down 1 through 10. Let's go right back down, and I'm going to get to that Lex Luger situation. Definitely going to get to that Lex Luger situation. Okay, number 1, we had Nature Boy Ric Flair. He was number 1 in the world, man, in February of 1992. Wrestling superstars wasn't just usually these magazines. They was pretty much in the same mindset with their rankings. But Ric Flair was number 1 in the world in 1992, February of 1992. Number 2 was Rick Rude. Man, definitely great U.S. champion. Great U.S. champion. He could have been a U.S. Champion at that time, but he ended up getting the title. Sting was ranked number 3. Ranked number 3. He was the number 1 contender to the U.S. title. Roddy Piper was the WWE. It was actually called the WWF at this time, guys. He was the Intercontinental Champion. Great champion, great wrestler all around. All right, man. Well, I'm not going to say he was a technical wrestler, but he was great inside and outside that ring. He knew what he was doing, man. Randy Savage was the number 2 contender to the WWF Heavyweight Championship. Great wrestler. Everybody know how great he was. And I think he ended up beating Ric Flair for that title. And I think Flair got it back from him. Then he took Flair out again. All right, number 6, Lex Luger. Now, Lex Luger being number 6, like I said before, man, he was the number 6. He was the number 6 ranked wrestler in the world at this time. Should have been ranked at least number 2 after Ric Flair, but he was ranked number 6, and he had that WCW World Champion. He just didn't. It just didn't resonate with people, him being the world champ. And man, I looked at my whole thing with him. Like I said, great body, powerful wrestler, but I did. I looked at Lex Luger's skill at that time, skill set. And if you was a serious wrestling fan and you was watching WCW, you was watching Jim Crockett Promotions going into WCW, you was gonna be like that. You looked at not just fan reaction or anything like that. You looked at a wrestler's skill, and I think that's what held. I'm pretty sure that's what held Magnum TA back from getting the belt. That held them back from putting the title on him. You know, I know a lot of people out here think Magnum TA was going to be the champion. I know Chris goes into, you know, Chris has said plenty of things. Oh, he was going to be the champ. A lot of fans out here say he was going to be the champ. But the whole thing about it is this. I watched this. I watched it at that time. I was, you know, definitely all into wrestling at that time. You know, Magnum never could overcome Flair, and I think they was trying to build him up, make him even better. They put him infused with Tully Blanchard. They put him infused with Nikita Koloff. He was in different feuds, man, going up against different opponents. You know, he was in a feud with not Jim Nelson, but Don Kernodle. So he definitely was infused with different people, and he had, I guess they were trying to get him with building him up to be even better. But he ended up losing that feud against Nikita Koloff. He definitely did, and he had a hard time overcoming Tully Blanchard, but he never got over with people. And I think I think at the end of it, because they did have big plans for him, and to put the title on him, he was supposed to be Sting before Sting, but he never did overcome that before he had the car wreck. So Magnum TA did not become the world heavyweight champion. As much as people want to be out here and saying, oh, he was going to be the man, he was going to be the man. Now, if he would have went to the WWE, which that's who Vince wanted at first, he wanted Magnum TA. If he would have went to the WWE, he definitely would have been the champion. He was great at kicking and punching guys and hitting you with that belly-to-belly suplex. But as far as a world champion and WCW, you know, hey, definitely wasn't going to happen. Definitely wasn't going to happen, but definitely a great wrestler. All right, number 7, man, we had Dark Patriot. All right, that's Doug Gilbert. That's number 8, we had Kamala. All right, number 9, man, we had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Number 10, Eddie Gilbert. But back to Lex Luger, who's at number 6. Like I said, that was very shocking. And to me, it was pretty much embarrassing that their world champ was going to be ranked number 6. I never seen anything like that before, guys, because it was always number 1 to say Ric Flair. Number 2 will be Hulk Hogan. Number 3 will be the world champion, the AWA world champion. It would be Vern Gagne or Nick Botwinkle or whoever was the world champion there. Same thing before Flair had the title, man. Harley Race will be number 1. Then you have Bob Backlund as number 2. Nick Botwinkle will be number 3. Or you have Nick Botwinkle number 2 and Bob Backlund number 3. Harley Race will always be the man. And before that, you had Terry Funk, who was number 1. You have Vern Gagne number 2. You have Bruno Sammartino number 2. Vern Gagne number 3. Or sometimes Bruno Sammartino will take the top spot. Very rarely, but he did. And you had Mil Mascaras taking number 4. He was the IWA World Heavyweight Champion at that time. They had 4 organizations. That was pretty big. So, man, yeah, I just, that number 6 ranking for Lex Luger, that thing threw me. It was just flat out crazy. But that's just how it was back then, guys. It was just, man, I couldn't believe it. And it's still stunning to open up this magazine and see that today. You know, let me see if I can get the thing on fully on the camera. But yeah, that's the top 10 right there. I don't know if you can see it, but let me see if I can get it in the top 10. And if you can see it, man, if you can focus on it. But yeah, it has Lex Luger right there. He's number 6, guys. Lex Luger, number 6. I mean, unbelievable, man. But yeah, it's still unbelievable to me today when I opened up this magazine and just and check that out. But hey, guys, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna talk about this another time. Then I'm gonna go into the tag teams. Then I'm gonna go to the top 10. Yeah, the top 10 tag teams. Then I'm gonna go to the top 10 in WCW, the top 10 in WWF, the top 10 in Global Championship Wrestling at the time, the top 10 in USA Championship Wrestling. Then I'm gonna talk about the most popular wrestlers, the most hated wrestlers, the PNW champions. Oh, I forgot about PNW. Then the IWCCW champions. So, guys, and then I'm gonna talk about the cumulative ratings. So I got a lot to cover here, but I'm pretty much gonna combine those things into one, a couple different shows. not going to have all kind of different shows talking about this. But hey, guys, I appreciate you joining Straight Up Wrestling Show, man. Hey, and before you leave out, you know what to do. That like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube. Like, share, join on Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell over on Twitch. And if you're on Twitter, hit that, formerly known as Twitter, over on X. Like, share, tweet, and retweet. And follow the Straight Up Wrestling Show on X. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Have a good day. Good evening, put it that way. Hopefully see you guys tonight. Peace.